You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Radio Show, only on Financial News and Talk. Now live in studio, your host, local and national real estate expert and consumer advocate, Ron Siegel.
And hello again. Welcome to Ron Siegel Radio. This is the show with no real boundaries as we discuss current events, financial markets, politics, sports, even poking fun at the rest of the media. This is the show that connects the dots of confusion delivered by conflicting media reports. We connect the dots so you know the actions you can take, how your family or business can benefit from current events most of all. Thank you for joining me. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day. We have a very focused show. We only chat about items that affect the roof over your head, your bank account, and anything I feel would benefit you. But before we get into our intriguing content today, please join me in welcoming our featured guest and repeat offender.
Welcome back.
Mary Gaston, Realty Pro 100 is with us. Welcome.
Good morning.
Almost Mama Mary.
Almost.
Mama Mary. We're getting close, but this is going to be the last show. We're going to have you on for a while.
Yes.
We're going to miss you. We're going to miss you. I don't know who's going to be able to sit in that seat and compare, but
Yeah, we'll be lucky if my water doesn't break during the show.
It is what it is.
Yeah. We'll have the paramedics on standby, please. Somebody, please make sure that they are on standby. Standby. You got me all flustered now, Mary. I mean, that's going a little too far. We've done a lot of things in 13 years on Ron Siegel Radio. That would be the first. Let's not do that. Let me remind you, if you ever have any home or finance related questions, I am the consumer advocate looking out for you. And you can reach out to me directly, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Just remember, that's the number you call anytime for assistance. When you call that number, it comes directly to me first. There are operators standing by.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
While I do have a great team when it comes to developing a financing plan or plan to save you money, I personally work with you, even if you don't have any needs today. Save this number in your phone for future reference, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And yes, we are celebrating today. I have no idea what we're going to celebrate today, but we're going to celebrate it anyway. I wonder what this one is. SBCD Day. Small Business Development Centers. Okay. I don't know about that one. We've got World Consumer Rights Day, Contact Day, National Kansas Day, Everything You Think Is Wrong Day. That's called being married. That's just my scenario, I guess. Pears Helene Day. Do we have that one, Josh? Pears Helene? Are we going that direction? Okay, well, that's one that for those of us that have beaten anorexia, that's a pretty decent one, I think. A little bit of dessert right there. Got a pear with some chocolate on there. Can't go wrong on that one. But speaking of going wrong, maybe we can take a look and see what the markets are doing today. Do we want to see what the markets are doing today? Well, they've improved a bit. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is only down 595 points as I speak to you. The S&P 500 is down 63. The NASDAQ is down 112. Oil down $4.29 a barrel. Wow, that's a pretty good one. I wonder if the president's awake yet, if he knows that that's happening. Now, that's where he said he was going to refill the strategic oil reserves if it was under 80. And, just to help the president out, because I know sometimes he's a little behind. 67 is below 80. But then again, he's probably not focused on it. And why would I say something? Well, you know why I would say something like that. Have you noticed what's going on in the world of banking right now? The banks, we're seeing all kinds of banking problems. We saw a couple of U.S. banks that failed in the last few days. Think about this one. Goldman Sachs bought off some of the troubled assets from Silicon Valley Bank. And the fee that they got for this, just the fee for buying the assets, $100 million fee. Think about that one. So they buy the assets and get paid $100 million to do it. That seems like a good deal to me, as long as you have the money to buy those assets. Now, the issue, though, is, the president, the Secretary of Treasury, the chairman of the Federal Reserve say, nothing to see here, everything is okay. That was Monday. And I shared with you what was going on Monday in depth. If you missed it, you missed a lot because we explained exactly why Silicon Valley Bank failed. And it has a lot to do with the Federal Reserve just not understanding the consequences of their actions. So now we see what's going on over in Europe. Credit Suisse, their stock price down. I think last I looked was down about 25% today. It's basically a junk stock anymore, one of the bigger banks in France. And then you look back and you see, how did the regulators miss this? Would this surprise you to know that in the minutes of the Treasury Department's last major meeting, that the topic of conversation was not inflation, as the Federal Reserve is watching. It was not the slowdown in labor, which we've been telling you about. It was not the slowdown in purchases of goods and services. You know what they were working on? Climate change. Look in the minutes. Don't believe me. Just go look in the minutes yourself from the last minutes from the U.S. Treasury. Janet Yellen was leading a meeting on climate change while we're watching now banks that were not being regulated. Now, Silicon Valley Bank, we did see now in the news that while the interest rates are rising dramatically, mortgage refinances are down 80%. Real estate sales are down. The prices are not dropping because the sales are down and the supply is down. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Everything is slowing down. The Federal Reserve is trying to break the economy to bring down inflation. Inflation definition: too much money chasing too few goods. Definition of inflation: too much money. So what does the president and the Treasury Department do? They come out with a budget to spend more money. Think about that. So they were going to spend $1.29 for every dollar in new taxes. Doesn't work that way. Now, believe me, it's not all just this president. The last one spent $6 trillion more than they brought in as well. So, that he gets a little bit of that credit to go there as well. But the issue here is nobody's really watching what's going on. Silicon Valley Bank, while the markets are imploding, and we all know that they are, we saw what happened with interest rates. We saw what happened with mortgages. We saw what happened in the real estate sector. Shelter is 43% of consumer price index, 43%. So the interest rates are going up dramatically. First time in history that they have doubled in 1 year, the discount rate from the Federal Reserve. First time in history that's happened. Mortgage rates doubled in the same calendar year, 2022. Doubled. What was Silicon Valley Bank? Do you know what their risk officer was? Wait. They didn't have a risk officer for most of that time. 7 months, no risk officer, when you've got arguably one of the riskiest times in history. You wonder why, but the Treasury, what were they doing? Were they overseeing this? No, they were dealing with climate change. What do you think is going? And I think the climate change scientists, do you think they were working with Dr. Fauci? Because it might be about as accurate as Fauci was. But we're going to get into some other things and chat about that. Why is what's happening in the banking sector could be a blessing in disguise when it comes to inflation? I'm going to chat with you about that one because if you remember what I just said, too much money chasing too few goods. Well, now it's going to get harder to borrow money. Maybe not on the real estate side, but business to business. When a business needs to go out and borrow money, they may have a little bit more of a challenge because the banks are going to have to be a little bit more cautious. Their reserves might be increasing. We'll talk about that and more. You can reach me anytime. Our off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com. Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube. Ron Siegel, the number 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
79% of all credit reports have errors that should be corrected through factual disputing. You could be saving thousands every year if your report was accurate. CreditSanitizer.com provides a free credit report audit when you furnish a specific $1 credit report. You can use this information to request corrections to your report and potentially save thousands of dollars. Get your free credit audit at CreditSanitizer.com. That's CreditSanitizer.com for a free credit report audit. CreditSanitizer.com.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The Mortgage Minute today being brought to you by our friends at Geneva Financial. When you're ready for that next home loan, Geneva's got the programs and the products. You just need to make the call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And every day at this time, OBMMI, they provide the most comprehensive, accurate, timely, and interactive analysis of pricing ever conducted in the mortgage industry, calculated from actual locked rates with consumers across 35% of all mortgage transactions nationwide. What did the loans lock at yesterday? 30-year conforming, 6.616. Jumbo, 6.623. FHA, 6.525. USDA, 6.584. And the best loan on the market, that would be the VA loan. 30 years down yesterday to 6.267. If you remember, about a week ago, we were looking at close to 7% interest rates until we started all this banking problems. And I told you they're going to keep on going down. And if the Federal Reserve has their eyes opened, we might find that, they're not going to do it. They should be holding up next week and not increase the discount rate, but they don't want anybody to think there's a problem in the banking sector. So they'll probably increase anyway. 10-year Treasury is now down 26 basis points on the interest rate of the yield at 3.408. It was almost 4 last. It was actually a little bit over 4 last week. So that's a huge drop. Mortgage-backed securities are up 73 basis points. That means the bond is up almost 0.75% on the bond itself, which means interest rates are down there as well. And the question that you may be asking yourself, and if you're not, you should be, why? Why is all this happening? Well, it's all got a combination to do with the banks, and the Federal Reserve is not patient. They're going to continue on their mission, even though we've told you that they're overdoing it. But we did get the Producer Price Index inflation data today. Today's data was for February. Report showed that overall producer inflation increased by 0.1%, which was much cooler than the 0.3% expected. Additionally, January was revised lower by 0.4 from 0.7 to 0.3. This caused the year-over-year reading to decline from a downwardly revised 5.7 to 4.6. Core rate, which strips out food and energy because no one needs either of those, flat and much lower than the 0.4% up expected. Year-over-year core inflation declined from 5.4% to 4.4. Pushing producer prices down was lower food and energy costs. Services fell for the second month in a row, which has been sticky. That one hasn't been moving much. This could definitely lead to lower consumer costs if they pass along the savings. They will not. Producers keep those savings for a little while until they're forced to pass them along. That's called capitalism. Make some money when you can. Retail sales were down 0.4% in February versus the expected 0.3%. Take out autos, they're down 0.1%, which is interesting because experts were looking for used car sales to push up inflation. Why? 3 years ago, people were out buying cars, or actually they were out leasing cars, and those cars are getting turned back in right now. But apparently, with the higher interest rates, there's not as much demand for those. So that's a big issue right there. We're watching that one for you. And I think tomorrow we're going to get, I think it came out earlier today, but I don't have all the numbers, I don't think. The Cass Freight Index, that's one of the real big leading indicators that we watch all the time because it tells us the cost of shipping goods from one place to another. So I think we'll have that number for you tomorrow. That's the Mortgage Minute brought to you by our friends at Geneva Financial. when you're ready for that next home loan. Geneva's got the programs and the products. You just need to make the call. 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. So let's chat. Mary Gaston, Realty Pro 100. We do this segment. It's been several years now.
Yeah, I think we're going on almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years. The millennial, you can tell who that is, and the old man, you can tell who that is. It's really tells you how creative I am. Not very. So we chat about what my perspective is from an old timer on what the markets are doing, and what Mary's perspective is, and Mary gives us two perspectives actually. She tells us what hers is from being an industry expert, and also what her peers see and what she hears from her peers as well. So it really gives us a great outlook on what's going on in the marketplace. Right now, it's a pretty weird market, isn't it?
It is.
It's a little nutty, but as a leader, it's about educating.
Absolutely.
Right? Because so many people right now, I think, are just fearful of what's going on in the market. Interest rates, 3-4 weeks ago, they were down in the 6 to 6.5, back up to 7, back down.
Yep.
It's like a yo-yo, because not only are you in leadership with a good size real estate company, you're out there helping individuals.
Yes.
Almost about to be a mom, so you're in that millennial area, and you got friends.
Yeah, I do have friends.
So you got all of these things going on. So you get a lot of different perspectives. What do you hear on the interest rate world?
I mean, I think it's been the same, honestly, from everyone. What everyone's hearing from consumers is that the interest rates are going up, so obviously prices are going to fall, which people still need to understand that's not the case. Just because interest rates are going up does not mean that the demand has pulled off enough for those interest rates to fall. I keep telling everyone, yes, prices are not falling, but they're not, rising dramatically anymore. They're pretty much just holding steady.
Pretty flat. And we see, and I've got a chart right here, number 3, Josh, that basically shows us that where we see demand, right? Between 7 and 7.5, we saw very clearly that demand was pretty weak, right? When interest rates started coming down, demand was picking up, and 6.5, 6. Are your friends saying that they're going to wait until it's 3?
I actually haven't heard that. I think they understand that it's not going to just fall back down to that, but they just keep saying, well, we're going to wait for the prices to drop because interest rates are too high.
Waiting for prices to drop. Okay.
And it's the education that they're not going to just fall all of a sudden.
There's not a lot of catalyst for it.
Yeah. So I have some local numbers. I took some notes from a report I got. I probably got this report 2 weeks ago, so the inventory might be a little bit off. But so it says 89% of Californians have mortgage rates at or below 5%.
89%.
89%. 71% have them below 4%. So that's why the inventory is not growing the way it should be, because 71% of Californians are locked in an interest rate at 4%. They've got to be pretty motivated to give up and go buy a new house at a higher interest rate.
Yeah, why would you?
Exactly. So because of that, that's what's affecting the inventory.
That makes a lot of sense.
Maybe, yes, demand has dropped, but so has inventory.
The inventory is way down, and that's a big issue right there. And again, the interest rate issue, if you look at interest rates, we're still way below historic numbers, right? And the other part is we're looking at one of the big issues that we're going to have to deal with is the spread. And I know this gets kind of into the weeds, and I don't want to go too far into the weeds because there's so much to talk about. But historically, there's only been a 1.7 spread between the 10-year treasury and mortgage rates, and that's expanded. And we've talked about a lot of the why of that. But let's take a look at this one. Sam Cotter, chief economist, Freddie Mac. The economy is showing signs of resilience, mainly due to consumer spending, and rates are increasing. Overall housing costs are increasing and therefore impacting inflation, which continues to persist. Sam Cotter, chief economist at Freddie Mac. Okay, we've already talked about inflation, and maybe Sam doesn't realize that the housing part is so delayed as well. But the big issue that I want to get into a little bit, not a lot, because something's got to give, right? For over 50 years, and when we look at numbers, if we can look at historic numbers and you look at 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20, when we look at 50 years, we can almost guess that there's longevity there and history repeats itself, right? So when we look at over 50 years, the 30-year mortgage rate has moved in unison. The 10-year treasury and the 30-year mortgage rate have been pretty consistently right around 1.7 to 1.75 has been the spread. Got to be a little higher because it's not as risky to hold a government treasury as it is to hold a mortgage backed, although mortgages are pretty safe investment as well, right? But there's still a little bit more risk. Well, right now we're looking at a 2.75. It's 33% larger spread than the norm. So we can almost guess either the 10-year treasury has to go up, which means it's going to cost the government more to operate because of their interest expense, or the mortgage-backed securities are going to go down. What's going to happen? Do you have a crystal ball?
I don't.
Me neither. So we don't know which is going to happen, but let's take a bit of an educated guess at some of these things. So as Mary suggested, inventory is the big challenge, right? There's not a lot of reason for people to sell their house.
Exactly.
You've got the 6 Ds, which are always there.
Yes.
Right? So if I can remember them all, it's diplomas, diamonds, diapers, divorce, death, and defaults.
Yep.
Got them all. What do you know? Okay, so those 6 Ds, those are catalysts for people to have to either buy a house or sell a house. Now, if you don't have that catalyst, you don't go just buying a new house because
it's more of a want.
Right, it's a want. That's a perfect word. Right? You want to buy that new house. So you're going to say, okay, if I can buy that new house, that's good. But do I want to trade in that 3% mortgage for a 6.5 or 7?
Absolutely.
Right? And why would you? Now, in a minute, we're going to talk about the 6 Ds because there's a big issue there. But listings are down. Right? The amount of listings are down. That's a given. The number of homes for sale is increasing, but it's still 47.4% lower than it was before the pandemic. So we have to always look at numbers, right? I shouldn't say always. Right now, we have to look at numbers that are pre-pandemic and today.
Yes.
Pandemic numbers.
We're so skewed.
Yeah, throw them away.
Yeah.
Those are pretty worthless.
Yeah. Do you want the local numbers? I wrote down some local numbers
Yeah,
for you.
yeah.
So it says current inventory. I think I got this report about 10 days ago or so. So it's a little bit old. But the current Orange County inventory, 2,218 homes. The lowest inventory before the pandemic was in 2013. And that low was 3,237.
3,237?
Which was still 45% more than it is today.
Wow.
And that was the lowest before the pandemic.
So the lowest was 45% more than there is today.
Correct. So that's why we're trying to tell people, like, yes, the demand might be slowing, but there is not enough homes on the market.
Yeah.
That is why the prices are not falling.
Because for the most part, people are getting older. Right? I mean, it just happens.
Yeah.
So household formations are growing.
Correct. And I mean, I know there's a statistic that people move every 7 years. I think that statistic is way off now. I think people are staying in their homes a lot longer than 7 years.
Yeah, I know that was the one. I think the latest one I saw came out of the National Association of Realtors was 13.
Exactly.
Which feels a lot more likely.
And the 7 is what I've always sort of heard.
Right. And I think that the 13 is a little bit more likely.
Yes.
Just because, I mean, really, when you think about it, why? And now it's going to get even more.
And not only that, but because so many people are locked in these low interest rates, I mean, I've been hearing a lot about something that you and I have talked about forever is you get into a home you can afford.
Right.
And then you rent it out and go buy your next one.
Absolutely.
Why would anybody give up that low interest rate? They can keep that home rented out. So there's been a lot of talk about people picking up that strategy.
Which is great.
Which is amazing, but it's also going to hurt the inventory.
Hurts inventory, yeah. It's a great retirement strategy.
Yes.
You know, if you get into the game, and we're going to talk about getting into the game in a minute, but the whole concept being you got to really be careful of all these different issues. We're going to continue this conversation with Mary when we come back. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. I'm not sure if we're going to get into it or not, but I do have the report on balancing your wants and needs as a home buyer this spring. And visit Anaheim. They sent us some things for us to do as well. You can reach me anytime. Our off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com, facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel, the number 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. your home and mortgage connection.
Is your budget getting blown up with high prices of gas and increased costs for other household needs? This is Ron Siegel, host of the daily Home and Finance radio program. Did you know if you have a low interest rate mortgage along with auto debt, credit card debt, or student loans, your family could potentially save $500 or more per month by restructuring these debts? If you'd like a free Borrow Smart analysis with our team, let's book an appointment to see how we might be able to relieve some stress. Schedule an appointment at rsrbsa.com. That's rsrbsa.com for your free Borrow Smart analysis. rsrbsa.com.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. Visit Anaheim brings us on the town. Every week we get something from our friends over at Visit Anaheim on the town. They give us a major event of the week. They give us a romantic event of the week, and they give us a family event of the week. So let's see what they've sent us this. And I never know what they're sending. WonderCon, one of the country's best comic and pop culture conventions, is returning to the Anaheim Convention Center March 24th through Sunday, March 26th. WonderCon is produced by Comic Con International and features more than 900 exhibits in the 412,000 square foot exhibit hall. Discover comics, original art, toys, and merchandise, as well as exclusive movie and television programming, speaker panels, autograph moments, and more. Purchase your badges on comiccon.org. Comiccon.org. Romantic event of the week. I don't know. Vinyl night featuring a Radiant fashion show. Radiant Beer Company in Anaheim is throwing a groovy vinyl night and fashion show on Friday, March 24th from 7 to 10 p.m. Dance to a DJ and shop with a vintage clothing vendor. Participate in a friendly competition by dressing up as one of the beer can designs and make your photo in your beer can fit at the end of the night. The winner will be announced and will get to help design Radiant Beer's next can label. More information about the event and beer can designs can be found at radiantbeer.com. Vinyl night.
I love beer, but I've never thought as beer as like romantic.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a beer drinker, but hey, you know something? Well, I guess the romantic is you're not going to have kids there.
Okay. Fair.
Family event of the week. Meet and greet with the Easter Bunny. The Easter Bunny is hopping to Anaheim and making a stop at Brewery X on Sunday, March 26th from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Reserve your spot to take a picture and spend some time with the Easter Bunny. $65. Reservations include a meet and greet with the Easter Bunny, digital photo, face painting, and Easter crafts. Purchase your tickets on eventbrite.com. Okay, so we got some good stuff going on with Visit Anaheim on the town every week at this time, brought to you by our friends over at Visit Anaheim. Let's continue our conversation, speaking with Mary Gaston, Realty Pro 100, chatting about the monthly market report. So changing inventory. We're talking about a lot of these different things about inventory, not much of it available. And Mary shared with us local number down 45% since the high. That's 10 years ago. Think about that. How many people have been born in that time? How many households have been formed in that time? How many people have graduated, gotten married in the last 10 years? And the inventory of homes available down 45%. Mm-hmm. That's a lot. And we look on a national level, nationally, month over month inventory is down 6.1%. And here in California, down 7.9%.
Yeah. And if you actually go back to the last slide right before that monthly one, it says sort of OC is Orange County is right along with the national number, saying nationally it's down 47.4%.
Right.
Since the last low before the pandemic. So Orange County is pretty much pacing with national number right there.
Yeah, we're holding on right in the same idea there. 47.4%. You're right. I missed that one. Mm-hmm. That's so even if you're thinking about leaving California and going to wherever, the national number is down 47.4%.
Yep.
So 2019, there was 1,100,000 active listings, and in February, and 2023, 578,000, according to Realtor.com. That's a significant drops when you think of it.
Absolutely.
You know, and just think about the other part of that. So this is saying 578,000 active listings in February 2023, according to Realtor.com. And in Orange County, there's 2,200. Just one county out of 3,300 counties in the country.
Mhm.
It's 3,307. And there's 2,200. So, there's just not a lot of options.
Nope.
Now, that's going to be important when we get to this in a minute. So think about this one also, is building. So we're just not building property.
Nope.
Regardless, I mean, I get it in Orange County. You're not going to build a whole lot in Orange County.
Mhm.
Not a lot of raw land. And that which is here today is just kind of slipping away. But 14 years below the 52-year average. 14 years. Again, using a long time period
Yes.
of what the average housing units completed. Don't tell me about housing starts and permits and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't matter, because you can't move in. Well, Mary, you know this.
Mhm.
You can't move into a permit.
No.
Right? You have to wait till they complete it.
Yes.
Right? It works much better that way.
Yeah.
Except in Portland, they just put up more tents for people to live in. But 14 straight years below the 52-year average of completions. And we're still growing with lots of people. Housing market short, millions of homes. And again, doesn't matter where you get your data. Realtor.com says we're short 5.24 million homes. Bank of America says 4 million. Freddie Mac says 3.8. Morgan Stanley says 2. John Burns says 1.7. Moody's Analytics says 1.6. Common denominator, we're short.
Yes.
Right? So whether you go with Moody's at 1.6, they missed SVB Bank up, by the way. So I wonder if they're going to get this right. Or Realtor.com, who's got a vested interest in real estate, 5.24.
Mhm.
We're short. We need more properties. If you're thinking of waiting for prices to drop, that's what all this has to do with,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, because prices drop when there's too much. 2008, 9, 10,
Mhm.
right? Why did prices drop?
There's too much inventory.
Too much
not enough
inventory.
demand.
Right? Homes were going into default. They were going into foreclosure
Mhm.
because nobody wanted them.
Yes.
Right? You got a loan because you could fog a mirror. You didn't have to qualify. I mean, it was pretty simple to get a loan back then.
Mhm.
And people didn't want the property.
Yep.
Now there's no property, whether you want it or don't want it. There's nothing to buy. So you go out and get married, want to buy a house, good luck. Right?
Yep.
You just can't. So let's talk about the next step, because so many people, and Mary, you brought this up earlier, about prices dropping. Are they going to drop?
No.
No. I mean, when you look at the numbers here, so we've got 3 different resources telling us about prices. So Moody's tells us that since the peak in June, since properties got to the very highest level in June, they've come back 1%. FHFA says they've come back 1.6%. Case-Shiller says they've come back 2.7%. Now, they're probably all right. I'm not saying that they're wrong, being that there's 3 different sources giving us 3 different numbers. It's what are they looking at, right? Case-Shiller looks at everything.
Mhm.
FHFA just looks at homes with conforming limits. I'm not exactly sure what Moody's numbers are, but I'm sure that they've got a segment that they're looking at. But the bottom line here is, even if you go at Case-Shiller with where they're taking everything, which includes the big jumbos,
Mhm.
but if you have a $3 million house and it comes down to 2.5 or 2.75, okay, it feels like it's a lot. And if you own it, it is a lot.
Mhm.
But most of us don't own those.
No.
Right? So FHFA is what really more of us are involved in, and it's down 1.6%.
Yep. That's, I mean, again, I would call that more holding steady. It's not really falling.
Right. And when you start looking at it, you say, okay, does it really matter? Right? Does a 1.6% change matter? We're going to talk about that in just a second, because the question is, what are your options? There's only 2 options if you want a roof over your head. If you want to live on the street or a tent, we're not talking about that right now. But the only other 2 options are buy or rent.
Mhm.
Unless you're going to go live with mom and dad. But I don't recommend that one. But buy or rent, that's your issue. Now, if you want to rent, Josh, this is slide 16. Rents go up.
Absolutely.
They don't stop going up. You're probably happy about that as a landlord,
Oh yeah, I'm thrilled.
right? I mean, because it keeps going up every month.
Mhm.
You continue to make more money each month, and your cost does not go. In fact, I'll argue that the only direction that your costs go as a landlord is down,
Yeah.
right? You've got maintenance costs that you have to budget for,
Mhm.
but the cost of the property, if you've got a 30-year fixed rate loan, it's going to stay that way unless rates get better and you can reduce it.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing would be like taxes and insurance, but it's such a nominal difference.
Right, it's not a big deal. Doesn't keep the if you look at this chart that used to look like up until 2008, it kind of looked like a bunny run. If you want to compare it to skiing,
Yeah.
now it looks like, what do they call it? What's it?
The black diamond.
Black diamond,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you couldn't even get
I
me
would
to.
not go on that.
No, not at all. I don't like roller coasters. And I wouldn't go on that. But that's what the rents look like right now. That's your choice. So, do you want to rent or do you want to buy? Now, if you rent, how much of your rent goes to your net worth? Zero, right? So interest does not become an issue if you're renting because you're not getting anywhere financially. If you're buying, you're doing them a lot better off. Now, let's take a look going forward at what the home price expectation survey says. And I'm not pulling a Steve Harvey here, survey says, or any of that kind of stuff, but the bottom line here is, and I love this, I love home price expectation survey because they average over 100 economists every time they put out their survey. The economists are from banking, they're from real estate, they're from business, they're from academia. The last report I saw had 117 economists. You know what you get when you have 117 economists giving you an opinion? You're generally going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 opinions. Yeah, because they all hedge and they all give you, well, it could be this and it could be that, but take a look at this one. So the economists say that real estate values, on average, they're saying down 1.61% for the year 2023. Is that material?
Yeah, again, not a huge drop.
Nothing. It's not material. And with what's going on in interest rates right now, that may change. 2024 up 1.9. Again, that's not really material either.
No, basically balances each other out.
Start looking at 25, 26, and 27. We're back into our normal range, 3.5 to 4.4. Right? Prices are going to continue to appreciate. Now, I will share with you, Orange County, California, we do know that our prices go up more than other areas. Last year, 63 years, we're looking at about 5.35%, 5.35. So just think about that part of it. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk about, how about the percentage of price change maybe over 20 or 30 years? What does that look like? And what does that portend to the future? You can reach me anytime. Our off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube. Ron Siegel, the number 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio, your home and mortgage connection.
Do you know a homeowner experiencing divorce? Do you know a real estate reference and the divorce decree could cost tens of thousands of dollars? A certified divorce mortgage planning and real estate report could save you thousands of dollars, and it's free from your local certified divorce lending professional. Reach out to Ron today. RonIsMyLender.com. Again, RonIsMyLender.com. Licensed under NMLS 217037, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. This segment being brought to you by the area trusted real estate professionals of Ron Siegel Radio. Visit rsrhomescout.com, homescout.com. Great tool if you want to know the value of your property looking backwards. rsrhomescout.com. You can actually go in there. It gives you 4 different values of your property. You put in your address, and it'll give you 4 different values. It's going to give you Zillow, and that's going to be the one that's wrong. And then you can get the other 3 that are going to be more accurate. So go rsrhomescout.com. Continue our conversation. Mary Gaston, Realty Pro 100. We're chatting about the market, the mortgage market, the real estate market, and our monthly market report. And we go through this and look at it from the old man's perspective and the millennial perspective. And chatting about, we've talked about the interest rates, we've talked about the shortage of inventory, and we've talked about catalysts for people buying houses, and we've talked about rent, but talk about a little bit about investment. So think about this. From the first quarter of 1991 till the fourth quarter of 2022, if my math is right, that's about 30 years. Home prices have gone up 289.1%. Right? That's nationally. California, 300%. So in 10 years, you've tripled.
Yeah, I'm like, that's almost 100% every 10 years.
Right. Which, if you are a math guru or just know a couple of little statistics, the rule of 72 says that your money doubles you divide the years into 72, and that'll give you how the rate of return. Your money doubles. So if it doubles every 10 years, that means you're getting 7.2% return on your money.
Damn.
Not bad, right? Especially because you need somewhere to live, right? So it's a pretty good thing that your money's doubling every 10 years and you get a roof over your head. Better than a tent. So think about that. Now, let's take a look and see, because we go back to the home price expectation survey, and they look at this. Okay, what if you buy a house for $400,000 today? Yes, there are a few of them still available.
There are. I have one.
You have one?
Yeah.
To sell?
Yes.
Okay, so Mary's got one to sell. You want to buy a house for $400,000? Call Mary. Right, but think about this. You buy that now, and based on history, we can't guarantee anything. But 2028, 5 years, you're going to have an extra $54,296.
Yeah.
What do you have if you rent?
0.
Statements, right? Statements of what you paid, right? $54,296 by taking action. So the bottom line there is, what do you do with that? You borrow more money. Yes, I do lead a lending company, so I've got a vested interest, and buy another piece of property, because now if you want 2 that might go up $54,000,
Absolutely.
and maybe you get 3 or 4 that'll go up $54,000.
Absolutely.
And by the time you're 40, if you have 3 or 4, maybe you can retire.
Yep.
Right?
And you're probably not buying a $400,000 home every single time, because in that time period, your income's probably going up. You're probably buying more of,
step ups.
Yes.
You're buying. So it's the bottom. So right there, what Mary's saying is you're not buying your forever home on day one.
No.
Buy something to get into the game so you're not renting.
Yep.
Okay. Now, if you are thinking about selling, let's think about the other side of that. Or if you're one of those people that Mary and I chat about that says, you know something, I've got that 3 or 4% interest rate, I don't want to sell. Well, maybe there's some issues here that we want to talk about. Number one, maybe you decided that one of those 6 Ds we talked about earlier, you fall into one of those categories, but your house didn't sell because people got scared.
Yep.
Right? And we're seeing more expired listings now. You had a reason that you listed your house.
Yes.
What is it? If you let that listing go expired, there's only a couple of reasons you do that. Number one, you really didn't have a strong enough reason to sell.
And that's what I've seen the majority of those expired listings is they put it on and then just quickly took it off market and changed their mind. Whether it's they didn't, they really, at the end of the day, it honestly comes back to the mortgage rates. They don't want to give up their mortgage.
They don't want to give up the mortgage. That's good.
Yeah.
Good to know, though, right? Because so if the mortgage rate is the issue, that's not going to change, right? But if it's one of the other 6 Ds that was the catalyst, and maybe you thought that your house was still going up at 30% a year like it did a couple years ago, and it's not, and you have to be more realistic.
Yes.
So you might at that point have had a realtor that just didn't give you the whole truth. Right? There's some people out there that'll say, okay, your $400,000 house. Do you want me to list it for $500,000? I'll do it.
Yep.
Well, that's just somebody that's not being a good leader, not being a good steward, not being a good educator. Right? We want people that are educating.
Yes.
Right? I mean, the other part of it's just bogus. I took the listing and made your house into a museum, and I made you leave every Saturday and every Sunday for 6 months, knowing that it wasn't going to sell.
Yeah.
Right? That's just stupid. Call me at 800-306-1990. The question you want to ask the realtor that you pick is, what's the ratio of your list price to sell price? Are you getting it right? So, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, because you're competing with other people that have
Yep.
are interviewing others to list the property. Like, you've got a $400,000 listing. There may have been other people that they talked to, right? Might have been the best friend's dog watcher's uncle who never sold a house in their life, right? That happens. Don't do that right now. But the issue is, why are you selling? Why did you list it in the first? It was just a knee-jerk reaction. Somebody talked you into it. Shame on them.
Yeah.
Right? But if you had a good reason, let's explore that a little further. You probably have a bunch of equity in your house right now. Right? That's if you bought it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you've got equity.
Yeah, I mean, unless you recently refinanced and took it all out,
Right.
there's equity there.
So you've got options, is what that really means.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm going to throw this out there. There could have been people in 2021, 2021, 2022 that bought a house that they're not excited about.
Yeah. I think a lot of people did, feel the pressure of the market. So
that's
so
the
many
issue.
People were so desperate. They were just they were settling,
That's a good word.
Yeah.
Right. They were settling because they had made 30 offers, missed out on every one of them.
Yes.
They finally got something accepted, and it really wasn't exactly what they wanted.
Yes.
Well, that group of people needs to look and say, what are your priorities? Is it the 3% interest rate, or is it a house you want?
Yeah. Especially when you bought in 2021, you're going to have some equity to take and put towards the next one.
So there's a whole nother conversation, because there's a couple of ways of accessing that equity. One, you can do a refinance.
Yes.
And it may increase your interest rates, but it might get you to where you want to be. Or you might want to do a home equity line of credit. I'm not a big fan of that because the interest rates on those are over 10% right now.
Ooh.
Right? So that's an option. But the issue becomes, what's more important? And what's more important short and long term? Right? Because, Mary, you take the money out and buy another house that you really like. Okay, so now I'm happy, or Mama's happy, because my vote doesn't count. Right? And we're in the property we like. The old property, the payment is more, but rents went up in that same 2-year period.
And I am 100% for, if you are a little bit uncomfortable and it might be a little bit, uncomfortable for a couple years while rents continue to climb. I'm totally the type of person, I'm like, I will lose $100 a month for a couple, for a year or two while rents climb to catch up, to keep that property. Because in the long run, you're going to have that appreciation. You're going to have different tax write-offs against it as a rental property. So that's my personal philosophy, is I'm okay losing a little bit and stretching myself a little bit thin to make sure I hold on to that property.
And that's a great point, because I'm not sure that I know of anybody, maybe a very, very small segment of the population, that gets into a home, especially your first home, that's not stretching.
Yes.
Right? Because, I don't want to rent. I know it's a little more than I wanted to spend. Maybe it's a couple bucks more than what my rent was, but I'm looking at 5 or 10 or 20 years down the road instead of 5 or 10 or 20 minutes down the road.
Exactly. I mean, and when you're doing it for the first time, where it's the first time you're going to rent out, again, the rent might not cover all your costs if you had just bought the home a couple years ago, but it will get there. You just have to be uncomfortable for a short period of time.
So the two questions you have to ask yourself: what if I do it? What if I don't? What if I don't do it? And what Mary just said is exactly correct, and it will be. But what if what Mary just said is exactly correct? You grow into it. You start getting raises. We're getting wage growth is at about 5.2% right now. So wages are growing. The property is going to appreciate, no guarantees, but it's going to appreciate over the next 3, 4, 5 years. You can do exactly what Mary said. The rents go up, and you've got a nest egg that you're building. You know, I think a lot of what we do in our society right now is we go with what feels good right now.
Yes. You have to think about the long term in the
Right.
future.
So now the other side is, what if I don't? We talk about what if I don't do it? What if I do it? Right? Mary's right. The property value increases. The interest rates in recessions historically drop, so you can restructure that loan and get a lower interest rate on both properties. And now you've got two properties appreciating.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a millennial, you are.
I am.
And by the time you're old like me, you might have 4, 5, 6 properties.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, you're probably close to 30 years younger than me. So let's say you paid all your properties off.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got 5 properties that are bringing in $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month.
Absolutely.
So now you've got $500,000 a year in revenue.
Yeah, and you can eventually also take those properties and 1031 exchange it to, take the single family residence, 1031 exchange into like a duplex or a fourplex or something.
Right.
So you get a bigger asset that will appreciate more quickly.
And those are more advanced strategies. So if you want to talk about those, I'll put you in touch with Mary so you can chat about 1031 exchanges or other strategies that are available, so we can cut out as much as possible from going to Uncle Sam. Just a thought for you, unless you like paying taxes, and then you can move to Los Angeles. That's a whole different story, though. That's the bottom line. But if you want more information on any of this that we're chatting about, give us a call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. And as always, I ask, set that first radio preset button to come back here and join Ron Siegel Radio, where we only speak about items affecting your house and your bank account. Thanks to all of our sponsors. A big thanks to Josh and Sean, who are engineering us today. And, of course, a special thanks to you for spending a little bit of your day with us. That's all for Ron Siegel Radio. Again, if you have any questions or to meet any of our guests, call me anytime, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. And remember, make a lot of money so you can help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on Ron Siegel Radio.